Okay, everyone who's ready to take a trip back to the 1990s. This was an era when the Soviet Union just dissolved. Bill Clinton was in office. Mark Wahlberg, forgive me, and Will Smith were still making music. And the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers had a very intense playoff rivalry. Now, I'll admit I'm too young to remember that rivalry. I was born just a year before this whole rivalry started, from that span from 1992 through 1994. Of course, Dallas was known as the team of the 90s, the Niners the team of the 80s. I mean, what more could you ask for in a rivalry? Well, we seem to be going back to that again. Last year, the 49ers took on the Dallas Cowboys, beat them in the wild card round because Dak didn't quite know that the ref had to touch the ball to set it before a play could go off. I think the Niners kind of escaped that one. I do think Dallas was a slightly better team than the 49ers were last year, but hey, luck's a part of the game. And this year now, we're talking that both teams have improved from last year. The Niners much more so than the Cowboys, I would think. And now the Niners are hosting the game now in the divisional round here against the Cowboys. And just to look at it, this is probably the toughest matchup they could have received, the 49ers, because the other two teams were Minnesota or Tampa. The Giants beat Minnesota, and the 49ers, I think, would have steamrolled Minnesota, and that 49ers would have steamrolled the Tampa. I mean, they proved it earlier this season, 35-7 against Tom Brady and his Buccaneers. So the Cowboys, I do think, have the best chance of matching up here. They have playmakers for wide receivers. Dak knows what he's doing there behind center. Their offensive line is decent. Their defense is pretty good. It's all around. They are a complete team enough to where, I'm not saying they will, but I think they have a chance to beat the Niners. I'll be realistic about it. They certainly can do it. But if you look at it last week against what was probably the worst team in the playoffs here, the Cowboys put up 425 total yards, 297 passing, 128 rushing. It was a 6-yard per play average. Dak was very efficient here. Stats say here it was 25 of 33, 305 yards, 4 touchdowns, and had a rushing touchdown of himself. And then rushing-wise, the biggest standout was Tony Pollard, 77 yards on 15 carries. There were no touchdowns rushing-wise outside of Dak's, but the running backs didn't have any rushing touchdowns themselves. Through the air, very, very successful. Dalton Schultz was 7 receptions for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. Compact disc lamb. We're still in the 90s, keep in mind. I remember I took you back to this time period, so compact disc lamb. Kids, if you don't know what a compact disc is, ask your parents. They might tell you when you're older, or they might even be nice to show you what one was, or is. They're still around, trust me. Picked up 68 yards on 4 receptions and a touchdown, and even Michael Gallup poll here, 5 receptions, 46 yards, and a touchdown. So through the air, it was absolutely fantastic for them. They blew the Buccaneers out of the water. Tom Brady looked like a 45-year-old man that he should have been looking like probably 3 years ago at 42. So they kicked him out pretty easily there. Going to the Niners now on the wave that they rode at the end of that third quarter into the fourth against the Seahawks, 505 total yards. It's 324 passing, 181 rush yards, and they were averaging 8 yards a play. That's amazing. Big Rooster Brock, remember we're a family channel, so it's Rooster right now, not that other word. Big Rooster Brock, though, 18 for 30. He was a little shaky there in the first half, but I think that was to be expected. Everyone kept saying, first time rookie quarterback, everyone has the issue, and that does run true in postseason history. But he settled down, though, I would say, probably by the halfway through the second quarter, he kind of mellowed out into it, and then the second half he was absolutely fantastic when the Niners ran like 7:40 off the clock in the third quarter on that touchdown drive. Fantastic. 332 yards of passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown for himself, 0 interceptions. Dak also had 0 interceptions. I forgot to mention that. Apologies. He also had 0 interceptions, and it could have been 4 passing touchdowns for Purdy. Ayuk just happened to drop that one there in the fourth quarter, which if he caught that, I'm pretty sure I would have had to put up a missing person sign for my brain, because I would have just lost it. I would have lost my mind if that catch was caught. Other than that, though, out of the 181 rushing yards, Run CMC, I could still make that reference. I don't care if Run DMC was an 80s thing. I think they were still fairly relevant in the early 90s, so I'm sticking with that there. And either way, the Niners were the team of the 80s, so we're still going to keep it. Run CMC, 15 carries, 119 yards, and his first one was like 68 yards. I mean, he was pretty much the majority of the rushing. Mason, I think, only had one carry for like 2 yards. Mitchell didn't have a whole lot. I think Debo even had more than Mitchell. And I think even Purdy had a few more rushing yards than Mitchell and Mason there. But that being said, it's still basically a four-headed hydra of McCaffrey, Mitchell, Mason, and Debo when you want to use them back there. That's going to probably be a big factor to beating the Cowboys this upcoming week here. Receiving wise, Debo, 6 receptions, 133 yards, 1 touchdown that occurred in the fourth quarter there. That was the one play I missed. I was in my car coming back home from work when that play happened. I just heard it on the radio afterwards there, and I saw the highlight. There's a reason why he is one of the masters at yards after the catch. You know, one of the Yak Bros that they used to call him a few years ago. Major props though to Brandon Ayuk on that play. I mean, he blocked his man all the way there for a good 15 yards or so to get Debo that chance to run by him and score that touchdown. Ayuk, 3 receptions only, but 73 yards on 3 receptions. That he was fantastic. And then Jawan Jennings had only 2 receptions, but for 41 yards. He is absolutely the grittiest guy you need to go to when you need to force some play in there to pick up some chunky yardage there. Jawan Jennings, I think, has been an awesome third wide receiver for that team when they need to utilize him. Defense-wise, this is just an aggregate over the course of the season here, because both defenses, I think, played really well. The Niners defense, of course, forced that fumble and had an interception. The Cowboys, I think, had a couple interceptions there on Brady, so both defenses did their jobs in their respective games here. If you're looking over the course of the season, the Cowboys pass defense is slightly better than the 49ers, 6.2 yards per attempt compared to 6.4. So the Cowboys have a slight edge there in that regard. That's probably how they're going to attack the 49ers this week, because when you look at the rushing defense, it's 3.4 yards per carry against the 49ers compared to 4.4 for the Cowboys. And 128 yards rushing last week the Cowboys put up against Tampa. But I'm confident that number might very well be cut in half against the 49ers. Maybe not half, maybe a fourth. We'll see there. I mean, I don't see them getting 100 rushing yards against this team. If they can do it, more, props to Dallas there for that. But I mean, the 49ers, that front four is absolutely ridiculous. You have arguably the best linebackers in the game. If you can make that, if they can make the Cowboys one-dimensional having to pass, it's just coming down to the safeties having to. Pardon me there. The safeties having to just step up when necessary. I think Dak can be flushed out of a pocket pretty well. He can scramble, though. I would give him props to that. He can scramble. I don't think he's always super comfortable doing so, though. And Dak is also prone to having his bad games. We saw him be up and down during the season. I know it was no turnovers by him on Monday. He played a very clean game. It was a very excellent game for him. So it's just going to have to be getting him uncomfortable for this. As for the Niners offense, I mentioned earlier, it's probably going to be a very run heavy compared to the past there. I still think they can balance it out though, like they did against the Seahawks, but the Niners definitely are very much of a run first team to set up the pass when necessary, because when you have guys who can run, they have to be prepared for that, and then you can just keep your receivers open, and especially when you have Debo, Ayuk, Kittle on the field, in the backfield, like I mentioned, Christian McCaffrey, Debo when necessary, Mitchell, Mason, and he hasn't been used a whole lot recently because he's most used for blocking now, just because I think their style of play changed. Even Kyle Juszczyk, though, when you need him for something, he can get the job done himself even too. Brock just needs to play calm like he did in the second half of that game against Seattle, and they can certainly do this. I honestly think the 49ers are the better team. They should. I would say this is a 3 out of 4 if you want to talk a fraction here. 75% chance or 3 out of 4 chance of winning this game. I don't see any reason why they can't. Like I said, though, the Cowboys, if everything works right for them, the Niners have a couple stumbles. Yeah, I can see the Cowboys winning this. But we're got to stay faithful to the Bay here. And this team, I very well think the 49ers will be going to the NFC Championship game. Hopefully it'd be held in Santa Clara. We'll see what the Giants can do against the Eagles. If not, okay, it's time for the Road Warriors to go meet the city of brotherly love, if that ends up being the case. But let's look forward to a great game this week, and I appreciate all of you for watching. So take care, and what's some 90s slang I can use here? Stay radical? Yeah, stay radical. We'll go with that. See you next time.